So how does a 100-year-old Swedish company, the one famous for its vacuum cleaners, end up finding its entire future in Brazil? Well, this is the story of Electrolux, and it's a wild one. It's about a company that has navigated over a century of crises, from facing obsolescence to having mega mergers just fall apart. But it emerged stronger by making a massive strategic bet on a totally different continent. Okay, let's get into this masterclass in corporate reinvention. Right from the start, the company's DNA was forged in moments just like this. Okay, so picture this. The founder, Axel Wenner-Gren, is trying to sell a vacuum to the Vatican. He's up against 4 other companies. He just waits. He lets them all do their demos on their own little patches of carpet. Then, he walks over with his machine and simply vacuums the 4 clean areas. The bag just fills with dust his competitors left behind. See, he didn't just sell a product. He proved its superiority in a way nobody could argue with. That sales-first, strategic mindset, it was baked in from day one. And this right here, this is the key to Wenner-Gren's genius. He wasn't an engineer, not at all. He was a salesman. He saw this hulking 44-pound American industrial machine and had this revolutionary thought. He just knew if he could make it lighter and cheaper, he could put one in every single home on Earth. And his team delivered. The Model 3 weighed a tiny fraction of the original. He wasn't selling a vacuum, he was selling a whole new vision for life at home. And that's the thing you have to understand about this first era. Wenner-Gren's business innovations were just as important as the tech. I mean, he basically invented the door-to-door sales model for appliances. He introduced installment plans. This is at a time when consumer credit for stuff like this just didn't exist. He built a global sales force driven by competitions and rewards, and in less than 10 years, this sales-first strategy built a global empire with 250 offices all over the world. But then, the story takes a turn. By the 1960s, the company was kind of stuck, really in a dangerous spot. Too big to be a small, nimble player, but way too small to compete with the giants. So in 1967, a new leader, Hans Werthen, came in with a brutally simple diagnosis: grow or die. And the only way to grow fast enough? Buy the competition. This kicked off one of the most aggressive buying sprees in corporate history. And when I say aggressive, I mean it. Werthen and his team, they were known as the Troika, and they pulled off over 200 acquisitions in just over 20 years. And their playbook was genius, really. They didn't just buy healthy companies. They would find struggling competitors who needed a buyer, snap them up at a good price, and immediately integrate them to gobble up market share. This strategy turned Electrolux from a mid-sized European company into an absolute industrial behemoth. And just look at how strategic these moves were. Buying Eureka got them right back into the US market. Acquiring a nearly bankrupt Zanussi made them the undisputed leader in Europe almost overnight. And then the purchase of White Consolidated, which owned the iconic Frigidaire brand, gave them a massive foothold in North America. Can you believe it? Sales exploded. We're talking 80 times what they were before. On the surface, it was a stunning success. But was it? I mean, growing that fast, absorbing that many different companies, different cultures, all those factories, that has to come at a cost. The empire that Hans Werthen had built was about to face a crisis of its own making. And the problem was fragmentation. By the early 1990s, Electrolux was, frankly, an organizational mess. You had over 50 different brands, factories making the same things, and even divisions that were literally competing against each other for sales. The huge scale that was supposed to make them efficient was actually killing them. Profits nosedived, and the company was teetering on the brink of collapse. Something had to change, and it was going to be painful. And this is where the story takes its most fascinating turn. Just as the company was shutting down dozens of factories across Europe and North America, it made this huge, totally counterintuitive bet. It decided to invest, and invest heavily, in Brazil, a country that was just starting to get back on its feet after years of hyperinflation. It was a high-stakes gamble that would end up redefining the entire company. Now, this wasn't just a shot in the dark. Electrolux had actually been in Brazil since 1926. They knew the turf. So in 1996, right as the economy was stabilizing, they bought Refripar, which owned the iconic Prosdosimo brand. That gave them instant scale. You fast forward to today, and that century-long commitment has paid off in the most incredible way possible. Brazil is now the single largest market for the Electrolux brand in the entire world. And here's where their strategy in Brazil got really clever. After the Prodoximo deal, they later bought the well-known Continental brand out of a bankruptcy for a steal. This created a dual-brand powerhouse. You've got the premium Electrolux brand anchoring the high-end with all the bells and whistles, while the Continental brand serves the value segment. This two-pronged attack basically locked out competitors by covering the entire market. And this commitment isn't some relic of the past. It's happening right now. The company just poured 700 million reals into building its largest and most advanced factory in Latin American history. That's a massive signal about where they see their future. And it's being built, literally, in Brazil. And listen, we're not just talking about any old factory. This thing is the factory of the future. It runs entirely on renewable energy. It sends zero waste to the landfill. It's got a massive footprint with plenty of room to grow. This isn't just a blueprint for their operations in Latin America, it's a blueprint for sustainable manufacturing for the whole world. But of course, the story doesn't end there. The modern world brought a whole new set of challenges. The rise of fierce competitors from Asia and a huge strategic setback in North America forced the company, once again, to reevaluate and innovate its way forward. The biggest blow came in 2015. They had this massive $3.3 billion deal to buy GE's appliance division. This would have made them the top dog in the US, but regulators blocked it at the last minute. And to make it worse, GE Appliances was then sold to their competitor, Haier, which completely changed the game in North America and left Electrolux in a really tough spot. So what do? How do you respond to that? Well, they did what they've always done. They innovated their way out of the crisis. Way back in 2001, long before anyone else, they launched the Trilobite, the world's first commercially available robotic vacuum. It was a statement. Even when things looked bad, their response was to create the future. And here's another key piece of the puzzle: sustainability. And listen, this wasn't some recent PR move for them. When they launched their new brand in Brazil back in 1997, the very first product they put out was the country's first refrigerator that didn't use ozone-depleting CFCs. They used sustainability as a way to signal their long-term commitment and leadership from the very beginning. And this strategy isn't just good for the planet, it's incredibly good for business. Think about it like this. Their most energy and water-efficient products make up just over a quarter of their sales, but they bring in over a third of their gross profit. That proves that sustainability isn't just a marketing slogan, it's a core driver of their success. So, when you pull all these threads together, the resilience, the innovation, the big strategic bets, you get to this incredible conclusion. The future of this iconic Swedish company is now being forged in a place very few people would have ever predicted: Brazil. And we're not just talking about Brazil being a huge market anymore. It has transformed into a global innovation hub for the entire company. For example, a new energy-saving oven technology, developed in their São Carlos factory in Brazil, is now being exported to the rest of the world. Global innovation is now flowing from Brazil, not just to it. So that journey from Stockholm to São José dos Pinhais, it's so much more than just a change in geography. It's a complete reinvention. They went from a European giant built by buying up other companies to a global leader whose heart, its number one market, and its innovation engine is now firmly planted in Latin America. It's a remarkable transformation, and it really leaves us with one final thought. In today's world of fierce global competition, maybe the best strategy isn't just about defending your home turf, but having the vision to find a new home altogether. How is the future of a Swedish giant being reinvented in Brazil? The answer is strategically, boldly, and for the long haul.